This is a highlight of the Off Topical podcast. Listen for free to the whole episode at offtopical.net. All right, the Unity versus SpatialOS drama. You sent me this. You were excited and disgusted at the same time when you sent me this.
I was. You see my Twitter feed. I talked most of yesterday on Twitter. It was the most I've ever talked on Twitter at once in my entire life. My entire feed blew up, and I woke up this morning and I had like 12 things. So many people liked or retweeted, and I was just like, oh, God, stop. It's too many of you. 12 is too many.
Yeah.
I need 0. Oh. But no, being serious for a minute. So to set the backstory before we talk about it, in November of 2017, Unity announced that they had bought the cloud game server hosting company Multiplay. And in June or July of 2018, they changed their terms of service to be more like, you basically can't host your game on a cloud service. I mean, we'll get to that in a bit, because people are going to say that's inaccurate, and it is somewhat inaccurate, but it's also very true. So it gets tricky, which is annoying. So yesterday, we all woke up to a very lovely response by Improbable, the people that make SpatialOS, saying that Unity had changed their terms of service and that they are violating it, and that Unity had enforced their terms of service and pulled all of their licenses from them. So, that alone was pretty scummy, because apparently they were in negotiations, and negotiations fell apart, as they probably would.
Right.
But that was still pretty scummy. Turns out that same day, Unity announced their brand new cloud multiplayer hosting service, which, is ironic. So basically, the short version of this is Unity literally just tried to kill a competitor because they didn't want someone competing with them. Which is fair enough. It's their engine, it's their license, so-and-so, they can do whatever they want. But what ended up happening was a massive shitstorm, which just kind of rolled across the internet and took 12 hours or so for Unity to even respond. And their response, it wasn't even like, it had nothing to, like, everything that people were concerned about the new clause 2.4, not a single, like, they did not once respond to that actual clause at all. Like, not at all. I'm trying to get this as much in order as possible, because so much stuff happened yesterday.
Yeah.
It was just like crazy. So, and sorry about the squeaky chair, everyone, if you guys can hear it.
I can hear it.
Oh yeah, squeaky chair, gotta love it. I think this chair is on its last leg.
But
I know, right? So basically, what ended up happening was, after they bought Multiplay, according to Unity, they told SpatialOS that they were violating their terms of service, which is interesting, because at the time when they had allegedly done that a year ago, SpatialOS was not violating the terms of service. And this is the thing that Unity keeps doing. They're deflecting everything. Like, this is all Improbable's fault. This is not our fault. This is all Improbable's fault because they violated the terms of service. Yes, they did violate their terms of service. After you changed it, after they had been operating for years, and then you changed the terms of service so that they would then be violating it. To me, that's just disgusting, because it's like, okay, fair enough. You have the right to do that. But why would anyone make middleware for your game engine if you're just going to change it on a whim? Why would anyone use your engine if you're just going to change the terms of service on a whim?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's bad faith. Like, that's not how you do business. Not at all.
That's not even how big corporations like Microsoft even do business, which is crazy, because you think, they've done stuff like that, but they don't do stuff like that anymore, because as it turns out, it's a short-term gain for a long-term loss.
Well, Windows 10 is like doing that, and they're cutting out third-party hardware manufacturers too.
Yeah, but people still use it, so there you go. But anyway, and Epic Games, of course, had a response to this, and Tim Sweeney came out and basically said, because Epic Games' license agreement for Unreal, it's really not the greatest, because why would it be? I mean, it's a open but closed source engine,
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you have source code access, but it's still theirs. You can just use it indefinitely. However, their license, at the very least, does say that from the time you download it, this version of the source code is always yours. You can live on it forever if you want to. I mean, which is nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. See, that's how most companies operate, in fairness.
Right.
But Unity's big change was retroactive. So it affected everyone. Now, some people weren't affected. Apparently, games that use Photon were not affected. But a lot of others are. And honestly, if you read the language, you can check the show notes. And you can read the language of the clause. Because I don't know if they've changed it or not. And by the time we get this live, it's possible they will have finally changed it. Because in fairness, in Unity's response, they didn't actually say they were going to change the terms of service, which is hilarious in the blog post. But so many people attacked them in the comment section on the blog post that they commented down there that they were going to change the terms of service and make it, less absurd.
Yeah.
Because basically, the clause basically states that you cannot use Unity on a third-party server, which is not, approved by Unity. So
right.
even though the Unity's response was brilliant, because it basically said you're still free to use AWS, Google Cloud, or your own dedicated server. Heck, you can even continue to use SpatialOS. No, you can't, because one, you've already enforced the terms of service on SpatialOS against them for violating it. So then you can't use a blog post, which, by the way, blog posts are not legally binding in court. So no company is going to continue to operate and use SpatialOS. Now, maybe a few games that are out will continue to run, but they're going to have to think, like, if Unity doesn't change the terms of service, they're going to have to leave at some point because, the blog is not legally binding. And the terms of service will always come before whatever they say in a blog post. Now, if you have a good enough lawyer, you could probably argue it, but, that's time and that's money, and not everyone has that, so. Yeah. Anyway, so their entire blog post literally just contradicted their terms of service, because on the one hand, the terms of service says, no, you can't do that. And then they write a blog post and say, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that's really confusing about their terms of service legalese is that you're prohibited from using, a managed, what is it? Where is it? You may not use a managed service running on cloud infrastructure or a specific integration of a binary add-on or source code to be integrated with the Unity software or your project content incorporating the Unity runtime unless such managed service or SDK integration has been specifically authorized by Unity. So when in their blog post they say you can continue to use SpatialOS, but right here it says, no, you can't, bruh.
Yeah.
It's like that's ridiculous.
And if you see the comment section, there's over 149 comments. Everyone is just like, it's crazy. It's just they literally did it for money. And that, that's fair enough. They're a business. They have to grow. I understand that. But, some people were defending Unity, like SpatialOS. Oh, they violated the license agreement. When SpatialOS has been around for like 2 or 3 years or more. I think they were founded in 2015 or something, and I think they came out in like 2016. So, they've been operating for quite a while now.
Right.
But, SpatialOS also got one of the largest startup grant or hedge fund investments ever at $500 million.
Wow.
Yeah, Unity just wanted a chunk of that money. This literally boils down to money. There was no, and it's really funny because they just had Unite and they were talking about how they were gonna, make game development more open. This is the exact opposite of open because this affected developers. In fact, some developers were concerned about their well-being because of this new change. And I'm not talking like, things are, oh, it's fine, we're just ignoring. No, I mean, literally, I had friends who I emailed and asked how they were at their company because some of their places, they use Unity for client works. Like, they were panicking.
Yeah.
Because the way this new terms of service, because I'll read off this lovely line because it's beautiful. This is the last sentence on the thing. And I know many people have argued, well, that's not what it means, but that's what it says. And that's all that matters, is what it says. It is a very poorly worded clause because it's too vague. Here's what it says. You may not use a third party to directly or indirectly distribute or make available, stream, broadcast through simulation or otherwise any portion of the Unity software unless that third party is authorized by Unity to provide such services.
So is Steam authorized?
No, they're not.
Is Epic's storefront authorized?
Nope.
Cool. You're not allowed to sell your game, bro.
Yeah, because it has the Steam runtime in it.
Oh
because
my
that was the
God.
big thing, was if it has this, not Steam runtime, the Unity runtime. If it has the Unity runtime, then it counts. And I'm fairly certain that they only meant, competing cloud services like SpatialOS. I'm fairly certain that that's the only thing they meant. But that's not what they said. And as anyone knows, what they mean doesn't matter. It's what it says that matters.
Right.
So it's like literally they just banned the ability to sell, Unity titles anywhere. Now, are they actually going to enforce that? No. They'll probably change the wording on that one and make it more specific. But that's not the point. The point is that they actually put it out and then had it running since December 5th and no one knew.
Yeah.
And, and literally this was just about getting a piece of, the pie. They already have developers, but now they're going to go to the middleware manufacturers and say, well, we want your money too because you're making stuff for our product. And I don't know about you, but if I was making middleware, I would not touch Unity at all. I would not support Unity at all. I wouldn't. I'd be like, well, we can't support Unity. I would make it public. We're not going to support Unity because we don't want them changing their terms of service later. I mean, that sounds kind of petty and kind of shitty, but that's literally what they did.
Yeah.
Because when SpatialOS started, they were not in violation of the terms of service. And then Unity bought Multiplay, and then all of a sudden they're in violation of the terms of service. Like, they've been operating for 2 years and everything was fine. And so most likely what happened is Unity approached them, said, our terms of service has changed. You're in violation of it. We need to work this out. And Unity just demanded money. And SpatialOS was probably like, no, go screw yourself. I've been doing this for years. Why should I pay you money? And in fairness, I do understand because they count cloud as a platform. But from my, stance, it's no different from operating a game in the cloud than it is on a dedicated server.
Right.
SpatialOS provides, an SDK plugin and everything else for Unity. And yeah, they do use the headless server mode, for it all. But it's the developer themselves who actually, who actually does all the work and builds it. So not only are they trying to take money, but they're also saying that, they're a platform. Like, it's just scummy. It's very scummy. And that's why their update is just not, like, their response is just not good at all. And also too, think of all the trust they destroyed yesterday.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I cannot imagine how much trust they destroyed, because I have friends who, they've worked with Unity for years, and after yesterday, no joke, some of them, their businesses are considering moving and leaving Unity.
Yeah.
Now, if they'll really do that or not, it's hard to say, because they're entrenched. Everything they use is Unity. All the custom tools they've built are geared towards Unity. Everything is Unity focused. And just because they're contractors who businesses hire to make products for, it's very difficult for them to just say, well, now we're just going to use Unreal, or
Right.
now we're just going to use Godot, because they've invested probably 5 or 6 years or more into Unity. They're entrenched.
Right.
And it costs money to leave.
That's part of the problem. I mean,
It is part of the problem.
I feel for the developers who are like left in limbo here. Like, these guys, like you said, they are entrenched. I mean, this is a case of vendor lock-in, right?
Yep.
It's awful. Like, this is the kind of stuff that proprietary software does. If you're, I mean, even if you're using like an open source thing, you're going to become entrenched in one workflow. But, with a open source alternative, you're not going to have the license change on you suddenly. And it's not going to be retroactive because of reasons like, we want a piece of that pie. I don't know. This kind of like, I can't believe that Unity would do something so heavy-handed and so unbelievably stupid. Like you said, I mean, they have destroyed so much trust by making this license change retroactive. They have destroyed so much trust, and Epic swooped in with 25 million of those sweet Fortnite dollar bills, and they're like, hey, here's $25 million to help people migrate. But even that is like, that's not going to go very far among the thousands or the hundreds at least of Unity developers who need to make a switch.
Yeah.
It's insane, man. I can't imagine being like in their position. I feel for them.
Yeah, they're not happy. None of my friends where they work, and even one of my friends who owns his own business, he's not happy, because as he said, yeah, because of the backlash, this is going to probably get fixed, and everything will carry on as normal. But now the problem is do we trust Unity?
No, I wouldn't.
No, because as my friend pointed out, and I had this thought too. What happens when you get big and Unity decides that you owe them more money?
Right.
I mean, you go read the comment section on Unity's response, and it is just filled with negativity of people like, well, what did they violate? Because Unity comes out and says, and the title of it is Our Response to Improbable's blog post and Why You Can Keep Working on Your SpatialOS game. Right? That's the title. But when they tweeted it, or rather, I guess it's right here. Improbable published a blog post regarding their relationship with Unity Euro today. Improbable's blog is incorrect. Basically, Unity has been saying all since yesterday evening that SpatialOS is wrong, right? Well,
right.
We live in the United States. You have to prove why they're wrong. You can't just say, well, they're wrong. Okay, how are they wrong? They violated our terms of service. How? They violated our terms of service. Yes, but how? That like they will not say how they violated their terms of service.
From what I read,
and when they do, it's super vague.
From what I read, the breach of the terms of service, Unity says that any third party like Improbable that offers the runtime in the cloud as a managed service is in breach of it. But that's because they changed their terms of service to begin with.
Right. Exactly. It was perfectly. That's the thing that everyone who keeps defending Unity doesn't seem to understand. It was perfectly fine until Unity bought Multiplay, and then suddenly it wasn't fine anymore, because they don't want to compete with SpatialOS, because SpatialOS is different than Multiplay, but it's still similar.
Right.
SpatialOS is like running a whole bunch of servers as one massive server, so it's built for like large scale MMOs and other games like that. Multiplay is built for like more smaller scale stuff, like Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 5 servers. You just launch a whole bunch of individual servers.
Yeah.
It's not designed necessarily for the same thing. They're very similar, and you could probably do an MMO and Multiplay, or whatever Unity's new service is called. You could probably do it just fine, but SpatialOS is specifically built for that. Like, it'll send data in between its servers before it sends it to the client. It'll just do it. It's designed for it, and they've invested years of work in order to get it to that point. But now, because Unity's doing it, it's a business move, and it's just about money. No one's really surprised by that. What people are surprised by is the fact that a company that has been so developer-friendly for so long just like had a light bulb, just switched on, and then they're like, yeah, we're not going to do that.
I have seen a lot of the stuff from Unity, and I have never really trusted them.
Sure, but they never, up until now, they really haven't ever really screwed over their developers or their ecosystem.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not you like Unity or not, they actually had, up until now, a proven track record. Yeah, okay, they're not the greatest company. No company is. Every now and again we all make bad mistakes, and they've always fixed it. But I don't know how they're going to come back from this one, because all the tweets at Unity are still people talking about, well, what did they actually break? Your terms of service still hasn't been updated. And you know what it is? Because they enforce the terms of service, they can't claim, oh, it was a mistake, because they enforced it.
Right.
So that would be like, well, why'd you take away their license then? So, And then to kind of put cherry on top here. SpatialOS open sourced their tools for the Unity engine under the MIT license, and even said that they were going to help set up an emergency fund to help people port from Unity to another engine. And then Epic Games comes out and says, we have $25 million set aside. And if you're in limbo and you don't trust Unity anymore and you need a new engine, contact us and we'll work out a deal and we'll pay you to port your game from Unity to Unreal.
Yeah, but still, I mean, that's a lot of work to do.
It is a lot of work, but if someone else is paying for it, you know, it might be worth it, because this is not going to go away. I mean, Improbable and Unity will eventually reach a deal. But what most likely was happening is, behind the scenes, Unity was demanding money, which in my opinion, they don't deserve. I do understand that, yes, if you're using Unity runtime, you know, I could understand how you would want some money for that. But on the other hand, they're a middleware maker making software for your engine, which grows and promotes more users.
Yeah, I think
so why would you want to? Because who wants to make middleware for them now?
I think maybe the problem that Unity might have had with Improbable and SpatialOS is that it wasn't specifically for Unity. They had tools for Unity, but they also had tools for CryEngine and Unreal. And I think
neither of those companies care.
Say what?
And neither of those companies are bothered by that.
In
fact, they're ecstatic.
Yeah, but I think, you know, Unity seems like weird. They just seem weird to me. I don't know what it is about the company. I have never liked them. I've always seen like the things that they do as just strange. Like the fact that like only the worst games that get made have to have the Unity badge on it. Like that's just dumb.
That's because of the free thing. Any game that you don't have a pro license for automatically has that Unity watermark.
Yeah, and therefore the crap games that get made with Unity have the Unity mark, and thus diminishing their brand. Yep. I don't know. Unity is just weird, and you know
their new CEO from I think 2017, like late 2017. You know he's from EA. He's formerly from EA.
Oh well, that's starting to make a little bit of sense.
Yeah, this move is something that like EA or someone would do.
Yeah,
but that's not what you do. You know, it's fine to do that, I guess, if you make games, but it's not fine to do that because you're a tool maker and you just literally destroyed it. Like I said, you know, I've talked to people and they're not happy. Like they're not happy. Like, are they going to probably continue to use Unity? Most likely. They're most likely not going to leave Unity, but they're not happy.
Right.
They were happy before, and now they're not happy. And you know what that means? That means the first chance they get to leave the ecosystem, they're gone.
Yeah.
You don't want that. You want them to stay happy, so they'll keep paying you money to develop your product. And, you know, I don't know if this is ever going to be fixable. Because, you know, like, I love how a good chunk of their blog post, like, a good chunk of their blog post, like, at least slightly more than a third of their blog post is about how we are allowed to change our terms of service. Like, your response was supposed to be about Improbable, and yes, you do have to comment on why you changed the terms of service, but it's like, yeah, okay, you do have the right to change your terms of service. It doesn't mean you should do it.
Right.
And also, right here, from a technical standpoint, this is what our clarification on our terms of service means. If you want to run your Unity-based server on your own servers or a cloud provider that provides you instances to run your own server for your game, you are covered by our EULA. We will support you as long as the server is running on a Unity-supported platform. Then where did SpatialOS break it? Because it's not like SpatialOS, they're just an SDK that just gets tossed on a cloud server for managing, like, you know, multiple servers and also creating, like, you know, one giant cluster out of a bunch of other servers. So what you're saying is, basically, is that anyone who makes middleware for Unity has to pay money. That's literally what they're saying.
Yeah.
Also, that's not what your terms of service says at all. It's actually not what it says. I mean, we've both read, you know, several different chunks of it, and that's not what it says.
Right.
Like, you know, there are tons of comments in the comment section on that blog post of people going, well, that's the exact opposite of what your terms of service says. And then they posted an update. I don't know when they did it, but probably sometime late yesterday. We understand that there's still some questions about our terms of service. We're currently working to make the terms of service clear. Yeah, because your terms of service is so vague that you literally banned anybody from being able to sell a game made with Unity.
Right. Unless they sell it through the Unity store, which doesn't seem like it exists.
No, it doesn't exist. They had one like way back before they ever came to Windows or Linux. You know, we're talking like before 2000, before 2008 or something.
Yeah.
They had a store and it didn't do well. I think they would have done better making a store than they would have done doing all this. But one of the reasons they're doing stuff like this is because they've hit market saturation.
Yeah.
Like, so many people use Unity that there's no new growth, and a company has to grow, that's fine. That's fair enough. I'm fine if your company has to grow. So that's why they offer all these new solutions like, ads and, multiplayer networking, which, by the way, Unity has been notorious for having terrible built-in networking. So their new networking service better be amazing, because they probably just killed any opportunity for another networking service to appear.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's why they have all this stuff. It's to make more money because they've hit market saturation. And that's fine. No one cares that they're trying to make more money to, keep the lights on and maybe expand and give more people jobs. No one cares about that. But it's how you do it that people care about. And this is not the way you do it, in my opinion. You don't turn around and go, well, now what's next? That's my question, is what's next? By the way, just as a side note, there's a whole bunch of assets on the Unity Asset Store that violate the current terms of service because of how they work.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yep.
That's just fantastic. These guys are a bunch of idiots. And,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also, as a side note, this isn't in the show notes, but I'll tell it to everyone because everyone here might enjoy this. SpatialOS is looking at open source engines to integrate and have because SpatialOS has an SDK, so you can integrate it into anything you want, but it's a lot of work. And
Right.
It's possible that they're going to look at like Godot and various other open source engines, probably at the very least just Godot, and they're going to integrate it. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice.
Because, okay, if, what if something bad happens with Godot, just stick with your version. It's MIT. You can do whatever you want.
Right.
And the other thing is because SpatialOS agrees that Unity's terms of service is very vague. Everyone agrees with that. Just go read that thing. It's so vague. But SpatialOS, they're going to redo their entire terms of service to make it perfectly clear, which is really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, terms of services, regardless of how you feel about proprietary software or not, should not be confusing. Like, when you read it, you should not go, well, is it for this case or is it for this case? You should immediately read it and go, okay, this is what it's for. Because this is kind of the problem we have. Like, yes, we read off those parts, but they're like the part that I read, there are tons of people who would go, well, that's just for cloud servers because that's the section it's in. I'm like, that's true. It is just for cloud servers because of the section it's in. I'm sure that's what they meant, but that's not what it says. And, unless it explicitly says that, just because it's in that section, you get a good enough lawyer, could easily argue that someone violated the terms of service.
Right.
And no one wants to enter that nightmare, even if it ends up in your favor. Unity, sues you or sends you a cease and desist and you have to fight it. Even if you do win, at what cost?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that way. The terms should be perfectly clear and there should be no exceptions to it. But that's not the way it works.
Sadly, if you have to read a terms of service and then go, I should get my lawyer to read this over, I feel like the terms of service isn't serving its function, right?
Yeah. Also, they didn't update anyone on the terms of service. That's another funny part. Because I'm still a registered Unity developer. I don't have the pro license anymore because I'm not giving them any more of my money. I haven't done that in years. But I still have an account and everything. I didn't get an update about the terms of service.
Neither did I.
I checked. There was no update. And I'm sitting there thinking, you can change your terms of service anytime you want, but by law, you are legally required to, notify. So I'm like, well, how did they notify anyone? Because no one knew. Right. And it's been like that since December 5th. So no one knew. So my question is why didn't they notify anyone? Did they just push all the burden of proof? And that's another thing. They push the burden of verification or proof onto developers because now developers have to find, verified cloud server hosts that are partnered with Unity.
That's ridiculous.
It's like, why should that be our job? Like, we should be able to go host, you know what I mean? Like, if you really believe in an open, ecosystem for game developers, why would you make it more difficult for people to, host their multiplayer game?
Right.
I mean, again, this just boils down to SpatialOS didn't want to pay Unity, so Unity changed their terms of service and was bullying them. So then SpatialOS got sick of it and really pissed off when Unity yanked all their licenses away. So then they made it public, and now Unity is trying to do anything to deflect from this. Because it is the polar opposite of like their constant mission. You ever see Unity talk? They're always talking about how we want the gaming industry to be more open and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, well, if you want to be more open, why not be like Unreal where people can see the source code?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, Unreal's source code is not open source. That's true.
But
at
it's
least you can
available.
see it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure. Like I said, it's not open source, but you can see it. You can do stuff with it. You can change it. Sure, you can only keep it for yourself unless you want to push it back for everyone. Actually, that's not true. In fairness, you could develop your own branch fork that other people can use. They just have to be approved Unreal Engine people. That's it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
And that's really easy to get because all you have to do is hook your GitHub account to your Unreal account. So it's like not very difficult.
I've done
but it
that.
is not an open source engine. You can't just run off and go do whatever you want with it. But you could maintain your own variant if you wanted to.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping you. Except there's no point because why? Like, why would you not? Because, how are you really going to outdo Epic's like 150 programmers that work on it every day? No. No, you're not. So, but that's not the point. The point is you could do it.
Right.
There's nothing stopping you. Now, I don't know, like, if they changed, like, the license or anything, if that means, because new people wouldn't be able to get that license. Only old people. So, it is tricky, but it's not entirely impossible. So, anyway, it's still better than Unity's lovely, we're going to make everything more open, but we're not going to give source code to our engine at all.
Don't you have to pay more to get source access?
It is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Yes, it is in the 6 to 7 figures. Yes.
Yikes. No thanks.
Yes. Yep.
I don't know. What do you guys think about all of this? Are you on Unity's side, or are you on Improbable's side on this one? Personally, I think I'm on Improbable's side. I don't know. Let us know what you think in the comments. This is going to be up on YouTube, or you can head over to the show notes, forum.heavyelement.io. What you just heard is a highlight from the Off Topical podcast. Listen to the full episode for free over at offtopical.net.